Welcome to Tea with Honey. It's your girl HoneyDaVinci and I'm back with another video. I know I told you on my page, Tea with Honey, at Tea with Honey D on Facebook, that I will be posting a video doing the cover for Joe Budden's pull-up session with Omarion. And I know I'm late. I haven't been home for about a week. I'm just getting home so that I can, start pumping out these videos again. But thank you for, being patient with me. So, as you guys know, Omarion was on Pull Up with Joe Budden. Now, this is just such an important video to me because, I love Joe Budden and I love Omarion. So it's like seeing them two together was just like, I have to make a video about this. And, it's just very telling because Joe is just such a phenomenal journalist and interviewer. And being that he has a background with the music industry and has been an artist, so he knows behind the scenes with production, he also knows what it's like to go through the hardships of being an artist. He's just such a good interviewer when it comes to, musicians and rappers and, just the music industry in general. So, it starts off right off the bat with Joe telling Omarion how much he is a fan of his and how he's basically trying to play it cool and nonchalant because, that's what we're used to. We're used to Joe being nonchalant when it comes to celebrities. He doesn't like celebrities. He never fails to tell us, I don't like you niggas. That is his go-to phrase when it comes to celebrities and doing interviews. He doesn't like doing interviews, but, rarely do you see him be a fan of an artist, so it was nice. He was telling Omarion how he's a fan, and Omarion obviously was just being thankful for it. And, he starts questioning Omarion about coming up as a child star and being so underrated and how he's selling out tours, selling out shows, and not just small budget shows 3,000 people. He's selling out, big stadiums and things like that, but he's just not getting quite the recognition that he feels like someone who's doing that should be getting. So he asks, do you feel that? Do you feel like you're underrated? Do you feel like people aren't really noticing you the way they should? And Omarion let him know that he doesn't feel that. He lets Joe know that he feels like it's more of a either you know or you don't know. And then he goes on and references how Pharrell has produced a lot of big hits that not everyone would even know that he has produced or his name has been behind. So it's kind of like a situation like that. It's some songs that you would never even think Pharrell has produced. But if you know, you know. And if you don't know, then you just don't know. And that's how he referenced to, it's like he was a part of the Millennium Tour last year. And it was one of the top tours in the world. And they were the only people of color with a tour that big last year. So it was a very big monumental moment for the year last year. He basically was saying, so it's not like he feels like he's underrated. It's just like you may not know that they're making these big moves or the impact that they have. You know what I mean? And his fan base is not new fans. He has fans from 20 years ago, like myself and others who grew up with B2K and, it's just that next level of love and support that he has. And like you said, either you know or you don't. And, I really like that. I really liked the interaction between Joe and Omarion because I feel like in a lot of ways, they're very similar and very different. They both have that mysteriousness to them. Joe is very mysterious because he's so well-rounded, and he's just a mixture of layers of different characteristics all bundled up into this one man. And I feel like it's the same with Omarion, but Omarion's mystique is more of he's very private. That's the word I'm looking for. Private. He's very private. You know Omarion. We've all grown up. We've watched Omarion. We've seen interviews with Omarion. We know that he's cool. He's calm. He's collective. We know that he likes to laugh. He likes to joke and things like that. But it's like we still don't know him at the same time. We know he's talented. We know he can dance his ass off. But it's like we still don't know him, but we want to know him. We want to know more about him. And at the same time, it's the same with Joe. It's like we know a lot about Joe. Joe is very open, and he tells us what he goes through. When he goes through breakups with women, he puts the shit on blast. He'll make a diss track to his girlfriend. He'll put it all in the music. And Omarion will do the same, but he won't. He'll do it in a different way. It's like they're the same, but they're different. And it was nice seeing them interact, specifically because I like when Joe interviews, guests that aren't so hard. Because I noticed that when Joe interviews like the hardcore rappers, he's always going to be like the goofy one in the room. He can be very serious. We all know he will curse somebody out. He will flip. He will toss a mic. He'll do all that. He'll scream at the top of his lungs, have veins popping out his head. But when he's around, those tough guys, he has no shame in being his true authentic self, which is like I said, just layers. He can be that loud, screaming, passionate guy, but he also has like a silly, giddy, like friendly, like welcoming, warm side to him. And when he's around like R&B singers and people who are just more uniquely themselves, he likes to show more of that side of him when he's around those people. And that's why I like seeing him interact with Omarion, because he was just more open, I feel like. And you can just see the clock ticking in Joe's head, And that's why I love Joe. But anyways, so he goes on to ask Omarion about the struggles of doing the tour with his old bandmates, because we've seen the breakup between B2K, and then for them to come back onto the Millennium Tour, and then now B2K is not on the Millennium Tour. Joe wanted to know, like, what happened with that, and Joe assumed that Omarion kicked these niggas off the tour, but Omarion denied it, which I don't know if... I feel like I want to believe what Omarion is saying because, he just comes across as this genuine guy. But a part of me just doesn't believe it. I don't believe that Omarion isn't the reason that B2K got kicked off the tour. But then again, maybe so, because this was his response. And then you can make your own opinion on what you think happened with the guys getting kicked off the tour. But basically, Omarion broke it down to this. He talked about the fact that when the group was together and B2K 20 years ago, that, it was a big up and down with them back then. They didn't always get along, and sometimes they would fight. And he spoke about a specific time where the guys were breaking up, but they had to perform, so they had gotten to this huge altercation, almost into a fist fight, and then literally right after the altercation had to get on stage and perform and act like nothing was going on. And he talked about how doing things like that really made it easier for him to reconnect with them, because even though they haven't seen each other and been around each other consistently for 15 years, it didn't change, the fact that he was already well equipped to handle the pressure because he has experience with it already. So he talked about how, this past year for the first Millennium Tour, that it was the same thing. Like, he had to get on stage, you know, and whether he liked guys or was getting along with the guys at the time or not, he had to put on the show and give his fans what they really wanted. And that's facts. You know, it's business at the end of the day. It is business. You don't always get along with your coworkers. Shit. It's rare you find a job where you get along with every single coworker. It's rare. At least for me. I don't know about you, but at least for me, it is rare that you find a job where every single person at that job you get along with. It's rare because people have their own stuff going on. Some people just won't like you just because you walked in with a smile on your face, and they don't like people who do happy all the time. You know what I mean? So people clash, but you still got to do what you got to do and get to the bag. And that's what Omarion was saying. And he also talked about the situation with Fizz and Apryl. And he let us know that he was shocked. He found out just like the rest of us. And when he found out, he was just as shocked as the rest of us. He was looking through the blogs and seeing just like everyone else, like, wow, this is really happening. And Joe asked him, does he think it was just for TV? Does he think that Fizz and Apryl did that just for love and hip hop? And Omarion said he doesn't. He feels like it's a real relationship. And he said a part of being him is just having to live and acknowledge the truth. And the truth is that he doesn't believe that it was fake. It's a real relationship. They really did that. Joe went on to say that the reason he thinks that it was just for TV is because they broke up like 2 weeks after the reunion. So it was like, it seemed like it was like a scheme to get press and, you know, acknowledgement or attention from the main media. So, or whatever. So that's when Joe goes on to ask Omarion about new music, and specifically music that will translate his emotions from that time with Apryl and Fizz and finding all that stuff out. And Omarion says that he is going to have some new music coming out for his next album that is going to have records that show his feelings. And a lot of people, I feel like, don't really listen to Omarion's new music. I do. So, with that being said, a lot of people don't know that Omarion has already spoken kind of about his situation with Apryl in his music. There's a song called Word for Word, and in the song, it's about a fight. It's about going through something with someone you're in a relationship. And Apryl has actually spoken about how O wrote a song about her. And if you know about the whole history between him and Apryl felt like O abandoned her and just ran off and disappeared on her when they were going through whatever they were going through. If you watch previous interviews with Omarion around the time that Word for Word came out, they asked him about relationships. This is way before the whole Little Fizz thing. But they asked him about, you know, why he's single or how he is in relationships. And O tells him, like, yeah, I'm terrible in relationships and all these things. So I do feel like there was something going on between him and Apryl. But the question is, what happened? You know what I mean? What happened between him and Apryl to where he left? She was probably doing some thought shit, because as we all know, Apryl is a thought. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Call it like I see it. But in the song Word for Word, he speaks on some of that. He speaks on, you know, don't we all have our reasons to run away? It's like, I just love that song. But he speaks on it. He talks about going through something with somebody and, you know, potentially wanting to make things right with that person, but it's not going right. And in the video, it was very artistic in the expression of self-awareness and self-understanding and growth and learning from your mistakes. So I feel like he has already touched on that, but he's letting us know with Joe that more music like that is coming out, and this music is going to be more in depth about his feelings and the way he transitioned through the pain and the hurt from the media and all of the things that was going on with him and Apryl. So I look forward to that because, you know, like Joe was telling him, O's been very poppy. He makes a lot of pop music, but we can't forget that O can fucking blow. Ooh, that man can sing. So I look forward to more music with that soul and that passion behind it. And O insinuates that that type of music is coming out in his next album, which I will have. So then they talk about Bow Wow. So, you know, Joe's asking him about the Millennium Tour and how they came about to having Bow Wow on the show. And, you know, Bow Wow's real name is Shad Moss, because I don't want to keep calling him Bow Wow. But anyway, so he asked him about Shad and how he managed to get Shad. Was it an easy one conversation? Hey, bro, you want to do the show? And then Bow Wow just hopped on? Or was it like a process? And Omarion basically breaks down how it was a process because, you know, he hadn't seen Bow in a long time. And he didn't just want to have Bow headline the show and then, you know, he be bullshitting or not coming in or not, you know, practicing or striving to be consistent and on time or whatever with the show. He wanted to see if he could actually handle being out on the road, doing all these shows, you know, and doing all this hard work. And so I guess he put Bow to a test, and Bow passed the test, and it was just like the Scream tour. They clicked, they meshed, and that was that. But ultimately, my overall review of the pull-up with Joe and Omarion is that O is a very well-rounded person. He's very grounded. He's very self-aware. And once you know yourself, going through hardships become easier is what I got from it. Because when you know yourself, you know what you're going through, and you can think your way through certain problems. You know, you can think yourself out of certain emotions. And I think that's what happened with him and Apryl. I feel like with him and Apryl is O understood that the relationship between him and her was just not going to work. So he left her. And he left her abruptly. Now, Apryl probably didn't handle that well. I'm pretty sure she didn't. She spoke about how she did many times on Love and Hip Hop. I feel like she got into this phase where she was just hurt and she just wanted revenge. Now, she probably didn't seek out Little Fizz for revenge. I feel like Fizz sought her out because Fizz is a hater. And he wants to be Omarion. Listen, they spoke about Raz B and Raz B's mental issues on this same pull-up with Omarion. And Omarion spoke about how hard it was to deal with the fact that, you know, Raz was having meltdowns and stuff like that. But I remember Raz B had an interview on a radio show, and they asked him about Omarion and Fizz. And even Raz B, with his mental issues, could understand and comprehend that it is Fizz who wants to be Omarion. It is Fizz who's out to get Omarion. And for him to say that really lets you know, like, where it's at. It really lets you know that Fizz has an underlying desire to be Omarion. He does. He wants to be Omarion. You got to think about it. Omarion was the lead singer of the group. He was the best singer and the best dancer. And he was the fan favorite. Now, a lot of females liked Fizz the best because of whatever some people thought he was the cutest. Some people thought J Boog was the cutest. I was one of those people. I liked Boog, but I also liked Omarion. And then, there was also people who liked Raz B. There was rare occasions. But, and, it probably was hard for Fizz to live in O's shadow as just the rapper. He really didn't bring much value to B2K, and that's why when Omarion left the group, Omarion still soared. You gotta understand, Omarion, when he left the group, he's the only one who didn't stay stagnant. He's the only one who put out music and was still getting number ones and still hitting the charts and still going crazy, like Touch, Icebox, Entourage. Like, he was just going all supposed to be. You know what I mean? And all these things were just transcending, and he was just still going. Now, the reason that Omarion hasn't really been putting out music like that back then, because he's putting more music out now, but back when he wasn't really putting out music and things like that, he spoke about, because Joe asked him, because he's a genius, Joe asked him about that period of time where he wasn't putting out music, because, as we know, O is very talented. And so for him to have those periods where he's just not putting out anything, Joe was curious about it. And O spoke about how the reason is label support. Now, Omarion was with Atlantic, and he was having issues with the label not supporting him. They were more so supporting Bruno Mars, big acts like that. And so, not just putting the blame on Bruno Mars, but other acts as well. So, he was kind of put into a little bubble. He was kind of put into a bubble of what they wanted him to be as opposed to what he wanted to be. And they also weren't really giving him the control he wanted on his music or allowing him to release music. They kept putting a hold on when he could release music, and that was causing a big problem for him. And he spoke about about how over his period of his career as a musician, he's been stuck in about 3 or 4 bad contracts. But he's managed to get himself out of all of those bad contracts. And a lot of people don't make it back after having 1 bad contract, let alone 3. So it was just like this resilience about him to just keep pushing forward and to keep on going. And now he feels like after all of that storminess and all of that struggle and going through all of those obstacles, this period of Omarion that we're seeing is the outcome, because after every storm there's a rainbow, and this is his rainbow of sunshine and light, where shit, nothing can phase him. You think this little Fizz shit phasing him? Nah, it's not phasing him, because at the end of the day, he done been through so much shit where everything's turning around. The narrative is changing. He spoke about that as well, about how, not all of the B2K fans were on the Omarion wave when he became a solo artist. So there were some fans who were just hurt. They felt like the band broke up because of Omarion. And so there was this narrative going around that no matter how much he dispelled the rumors, no matter how much he told people that, it wasn't him, it wasn't because of him, people believed he was the reason that B2K broke up. And he said that being that the group has got back together and they were on that tour, people got to really see that he was not the reason the group broke up. With Razby having mental breakdowns all the time, interactions between him and the guys at brunches and book signings or whatever, CD signings, whatever it was, the fans really got to see that it wasn't him. You know what I mean? He just been chilling. Now, jealousy is so powerful. Jealousy is so powerful, and it can really destroy a lot of things. And when people look at you and want what you have, or people look at you and see you as someone that they want to see in a messed up position or destroyed, it can do a lot. It can do a lot. And I feel like that's kind of what he was insinuating, that people were seeing that it's not him. He's not the one with the chip on his shoulder. It's them. It's the guys who got shit going on. And he also spoke about being confident. He said that, you know, a lot of times when you're confident in what you do and you know what you're doing, people get offended when
you really understand who
you're proud of it. And he spoke about
I see women do it all the time.
How he knows himself and isn't going to allow people to redirect his mentality about himself. And when you know who he knows who he wants to be, or he knows what he thinks he is, or who he thinks he is, and his view of himself, and he's not going to let anyone else stagnate that as well. He talked about his transition into becoming an independent artist and the struggles that he went through of being put in a box of like a gimmick, and basically people just seeing him as Omarion from B2K and not seeing him as Omarion the artist who had, you know, number ones and, you know, number one albums, number ones on charts and things like that as a solo artist, to where, you know, people were just not taking him seriously, and he had to just work his way out of these corners of public perception. You know, so it was a lot of things they talked about. They talked about a lot of things. The interview was about 2 hours long, almost. So they really got into it. They really got into it. It was a lot. So you guys can check that out. And I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that they came together. I'm so glad they came together because it was just very fun to see, you know. But that's my review on Pull Up with Omarion, Joe Budden's Pull Up with Omarion. You can check it out on YouTube for the full video, and you can click that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos and to stay up to date whenever I drop a new video. All right? I love you guys. I'm out.